Okay, so I just wanted to show you, this is how a general journal looks. You are going to do this in your 7-column exercise book. You'll see the first column is for your document, then you've got your day, you're going to enter the details, you've got a folio column, and then we're going to use 6 columns. It's going to be debit, credit, then we've got a column for debtors control, debit and credit, and then a column that we're going to name a heading for creditors control, debit and credit. So before you start, you fill in your headings again. You're going to write the general journal of the business FBC stores for January 2020. And then if you want to, over there in that corner, you can write GJ number 1, because I said January is the first month. You'll always have a number in there as well. So we are going to look at 6 different types of transactions that we enter in the general journal. It's 4 transactions that you don't enter, you can't enter them anywhere else. You can't enter them in the CPJ, CRJ, DJ, DAJ, CJ, CAJ, or even the PCJ. They don't fit. So then we enter them into the general journal. So just to recap, this is the journals we've done. CPJ for cash payments, CRJ for cash receipts, DJ for credit sales, DAJ for credit returns by a debtor, CJ for credit purchases, and CAJ for credit returns to a creditor, and then the PCJ for small payments. So now we're going to look at 6 different types of transactions. It's not a payment, it's not a cash receipt, it's not a credit sale, it's not a credit return, it's not a credit purchase. So we can't enter them in any of these journals, therefore general journal. Okay, so let's look at the first type of a transaction, cancelling discount allowed. So when the debtor paid me, I gave him discount and I entered that in the CRJ. I received money. But then now what happens, as it says over there, the debtor's check was returned by the bank, which means it was dishonored. So I'm going to cancel the check in the CPJ, but I need to cancel the discount in the general journal because the discount is a non-cash item. So what's going to happen is debtors control, and specifically my debtor M. Smith as well, the debtors control account will now increase with 32 Rand because the debtor owes me the discount again. And then discount allowed is my expense. We normally enter it on the debit side, but if I want to cancel it, I'm going to enter it on the credit side. How does an entry like that look in my general journal? So I'm going to start with my document. JV stands for journal voucher. That's my source document. Let's just say the day was the 3rd of January. Now, the account that I debited was debtors control and M. Smith. The account that I credited was discount allowed. So if I go over there, the first entry I'm going to make is the account debited M. Smith. Then in the next row, I need to leave a little space. Discount allowed was the account credited. Okay, I'll always start with the account debited and I'll always end with the account credited. So it's always debit first and then credit. I'm going to leave the folio column, then 32 in the debit column and 32 in the credit column. But remember, I talked about debtors control as well. Because M. Smith is a person, M. Smith is a person and a debtor. Therefore, because I entered the 32 in my debit column, I am going to enter the 32 in the debit column of debtors control as well, because M. Smith is a debtor. And then that's my entry. In the general journal, we also need to write what happened. We call that a narration. So we're just going to write there, cancel discount. That's it. And then I can't do it on my computer. I'm not that fancy. You're going to draw a line there just under in the details column underneath cancel discount. Right, so the next transaction or type of transaction is when we charged interest on overdue debtors. So I'm going to charge debtor L Rose her overdue account of 250 Rand with 5% interest for 3 months. So she didn't pay me. So here's my calculation, 250 times 5%, and it's only for 3 months that I charge her, okay? So debtors control will again now be L Rose as well. It's not just debtors control. I must note the specific debtor. And debtors control will increase with 3.13 Rand, which is the interest amount. And interest that the debtor will pay me is an income. Therefore, I enter it on the credit side under interest income. And that's it. So now we are going to go to the general journal again. Now I'm busy with journal voucher number 2. Let's say this happened on the 4th. The account that I debited was debtors control, but more specifically L Rose. And then remember, the next one must have a little space. And then I'm going to write interest income. Okay. I'm going to leave the folio column. The amount is 3.13 Rand, debit over there, and 3.13 Rand in the credit column. But because I'm dealing with a person over here, L Rose is a person. More specifically, this person is a debtor. So then because it's debited over there, I must write it in the debit column under debtors control. And then I must just write my narration, charge with 5% interest for 3 months. You can even put there, charge the account, or charge 250 Rand interest for 3 months. Okay, so the next transaction is very similar, but now it's our creditor that charges our account. So it says there that Macro charges FBC stores our account of 500 Rand with 6% interest for 2 months. So here's my calculation again. 500 Rand times 6% times 2 over 12 gives me 5 Rand. So interest expense will then be 5 Rand, okay? And then my creditor, more specifically, my creditor's name is Macro, and I need to increase my account with 5 Rand. So now, if we are going to go and enter it in my general journal, I am going to start with journal voucher number 3. Let's say this happened on the 6th. Now the account debited is interest expense. And then the account credited, remember I must make a little space. The account credited is my creditor Macro. So again, in the debit column 5 Rand, in the credit column 5 Rand. Over here, you'll always write something in the debit column and you'll always write something in the credit column. Now we've got a person again, Macro. Macro is a creditor. Because I wrote over here in the credit column, I'm going to write in the credit column of creditors control as well. And then my narration is creditor charged interest. I will cover the details of how clearly you must be over here later on. For now, I'm more worried about you need to know what to write as debit and credit, and you need to know where to enter it over there. So this is something we can fix later on. You must understand what account is debited and credited and how to fill it in. Okay, so the next one is when we write off bad debt. So bad debt is when a debtor cannot pay me and I'm then basically throwing the debt away. It is an expense for the business. So my transaction reads, debtor A. Birch cannot be found and his debt of 300 Rand must be written off, which means debtor's control will decrease with the 300 Rand. I'm not going to get the money, I'm just throwing it out. And then that will be an expense for the business, showing that I'm losing the money. So that's basically it. And then if I were to go and enter it into my general journal, I'm going to start with journal voucher 4. Let's say this happened on the 8th. The account debited is bad debts. Oh, I can't even smell anymore. Bad debts. And then again, remember when we credit something, we must leave a little space. The debtor's name is A. Birch, and then the amount is 300 Rand. Remember, I always write something in the debit and credit column over there. Because A. Birch is a person, I need to ask, is he a debtor or creditor? He's a debtor. I wrote it in the credit column, therefore credit column over there as well. And then my narration, again, my little story is just wrote off date. And that's it. Okay, we're almost done. Number 5 is when the owner takes goods for his personal use. So there's a couple of things he can take. I wrote there my transaction. The owner took either trading stock, equipment or vehicle, stationery or consumable goods to the value of 1,000 Rand for his own use. So drawings will be debited with 1,000 Rand, and then whatever he took, whether it be it trading stock, whether it be it vehicle or equipment or stationery or consumable goods, we are going to enter 1,000 Rand in one of these accounts. It depends on what he took. So let's say he took trading stock, then it's going to be drawings and trading stock. So when I go to my general journal, I'm going to have journal voucher number 5. This happened on the 12th. The account debited is drawings, and then whatever he took, in this case, he took trading stock. That will be credited. And then in the debit column 1,000 and in the credit column 1,000. And now I don't have a person over there, which means I'm not writing in either of these columns. It's just over there. Okay, so the last type of transaction is when we need to correct an error. So I bought stationery, 700 Rand, but I wrote trading stock. So I wrote there trading stock increased because I thought I bought stock. Now I must go and take it out because I actually bought stationery. Or I bought goods from a creditor, Megan, 100 Rand, but I wrote Meg Han. Okay, it's just a name issue. So I wrote over there that I owe Megan 100 Rand, but I must go and take it out because I actually owe this Megan 100 Rand. So stationery was debited and trading stock was credited. So when I go over here, I'm just going to write the journal voucher 6. This happened on the 17th. Stationery was debited and trading stock was credited. The amount 700 and 700, and again, none of them are people, so I only stay in the first debit and credit column. I don't need to go to debtors and creditors. And then I just made a little mistake. I forgot to write everything. I'm just going to write the correction of error for now. As I said, we'll sort out the details later. And the one on top there, owner took trading stock. And then just to quickly show you the last one with the two creditors, journal voucher 7. Let's say this happened on the 19th. Now, I debited Megan with an H and I credited Megan without an H. So they are both creditors. So I'm going to start with Megan with an H is debited, and then Megan without an H is credited. The amount is 100 Rand, so it's debit and credit column. Both of them are people. Both of them are creditors. So I'm going to go to my creditors column, and I'm going to write 100 Rand in the debit column because it's there, and 100 Rand in the credit column. And then again, my narration will just be correction of error. And then the columns that I need to add up is the debtors control debit column, the debtors control credit column, the creditors control debit column, and the creditors control credit column.